bridges. They serve as vital transportation links, but can also be magnificent feats of engineering, art, and architecture too. These bridges showcase the beauty and ingenuity of human design. So, join me for today's video. I'm gonna count down the 15 coolest bridges from around the world. Number 15. Zhangjiajie Glass Bridge. China's Zhangjiajie National Forest Park is full of natural wonders that draw thousands of visitors a day, from misty forests to towering sandstone pillars. It's even been said that the Tianxi mountain range here even inspired the scenery of James Cameron's Avatar. But it's not rock formations or trees that tourists have been clamoring at recently. Instead, they're here for the 400-foot-long, 900-foot-high glass bridge. This bridge, which opened in the summer of 2016, comes as part of a trend in glass suspension structures, which leave very little to the imagination as you look down. There's Brave Men's Bridge, located in the same natural preserve as the Zhangjiajie Bridge, as well as a swath of other Chinese glass bridges in both urban and natural settings. All of these have been constructed within a decade of each other, each trumping the last in superlatives. The Zhangjiajie Glass Bridge is currently one of the longest and the highest in the world, and it's one of the scariest too. The appeal of these attractions is both the ability to see the natural landscape below one's feet and the element of fear inherent in walking on such a massive structure made of delicate material. And if that wasn't enough to terrify you, one of China's other glass walkways cracked under the feet of visitors just 2 weeks after its opening. Though authorities assured the public the crack in the glass was merely superficial and no one was in any danger, it's understandable why people were scared. When the Zhangjiajie Bridge was unveiled, a number of public events were staged to prove the bridge's sturdiness, including driving a car across it and whacking the glass panes with sledgehammers. The bridge withstood the test, but to ensure safety, only 600 to 800 people are allowed to partake in its glass wonder at any given time. Number 14. Milao Viaduct. Thanks to a strange technicality, Milao Viaduct is the world's tallest bridge, a claim based on the height of the towers, which are taller than the Eiffel Tower. So at its highest point, the bridge reaches 1,104 feet. The height of the bridge deck itself is only the 17th tallest in the world, yet driving over it, it still feels like you're literally in the clouds. This cable-stay bridge is on the E11, a popular motorway route between Calais and the French and Spanish Mediterranean coasts. It's 890 feet from the road deck to the valley below, and the views are fantastic when it's not shrouded in clouds, which is quite often. And even then, how many opportunities do you get to drive through the clouds? The architects managed to create something straight from a fairy tale here. It truly is an architectural marvel. But many of the engineering aspects of the bridge were already worked out before the crew was given the brief to make the bridge look so good. The dream was always there, all they needed was permission. Building the bridge really was a team effort, and the list of famous engineering companies involved can go on for hours. As one might expect, the construction of the Milao Viaduct broke several records, claiming some not-so-exciting titles like Megastructure Bridge constructed several hundred meters above the ground without any loss of life throughout the 3-year construction period. It did become the highest bridge tower in the world, with the road deck being at 890 feet above the ground. Number 13. The Golden Bridge. Not to be confused with San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge, the Golden Bridge in Hau Phu, Vietnam looks like Snake Way come to life. This unique structure, backdropped by beautiful scenery, makes for a stunning sight as if it was plucked from a fantasy world. The giant hands supporting the bridge symbolize something divine, mythical, or godlike, lifting up humanity into the heavens. The bridge's principal architect, Vu Viet An, has even said the goal of the design was to invoke the sensation of walking along a thread stretching through the hands of God. It looks like they achieved that. Building this footbridge was an engineering challenge in its own right, because they needed to make sure not to damage the cliff below and make the structure blend in with the forest around it. The hands are supported by frames molded after anatomical structures and covered with decorative fiberglass, and the positioning of each finger was carefully chosen to invoke the desired effect. It's no secret that the construction of the Golden Bridge is part of a $2 billion investment to lure more tourists into the area, which seems to be working tremendously. With a bridge this spectacular and such a stunning landscape, it ought to make that money back in no time. The amazing Golden Bridge is the newest addition to the Sun World Bana Hills Amusement Park, 18 miles west of Da Nang. Number 12. Kaju Bridge. Humans have lived along the banks of the Zayanda Rud River for thousands of years, with the earliest evidence of their settlements dating back over 6 millennia. One of these settlements prospered and eventually became Isfahan, home to the Kaju Bridge, which connects the Kaju and Takte Fulad quarters across the Zanda Rud River in Iran. The exact date of the bridge's completion isn't recorded, but it is known it was built on top of an older bridge around 1650. The structure consists of 23 stone arches. It's about 430 feet long and nearly 40 feet wide, and it functions as both a bridge and a weir. The sluice gates built under the archways are still used to this day to regulate the flow of the river for irrigation. The upper part of the bridge consists of a large central aisle originally designed for horse-drawn carts flanked on either side by a pedestrian walk. The ingenuity interplay of vaults and inlets provides an intricate pattern through which air cools down, providing pedestrians with pleasant temperatures even during the hottest months of the year. Halfway through the bridge is a split pavilion, half looking upstream and the other half looking downstream, and it's recorded that Shah Abbas II once sat in the pavilion to admire the beauty of the river snaking through the city. The Kaju Bridge may be relatively small in stature, but its utility and architecture make it stand out as one of the coolest and most amazing bridges in the world. Number 11. Pont Jacques Chaban-Delmas. The Pont Jacques Chaban-Delmas Bridge is over 1,800 feet long, with 1,420 feet serving as the main deck and another 380 feet serving as the central lift span. The central section of the bridge remains in one piece, but lifts vertically by 360 feet in order to let tall ships pass underneath. It's a pretty unique bridge that takes the concept of a drawbridge, flips it on its head, and simplifies it substantially. The bridge is being put into place along the Garonne in France to connect the Bastide district of the Bordeaux city center near its wharves with the Bacalan district on the right bank of the city. The bridge has been named after a former Bordeaux mayor, Jacques Chaban-Delmas. Work on the project began in September 2009, and construction wrapped up in 2013. A pair of pylons on each side of the drawbridge section stretch over 250 feet high and are supported by concrete bases both 140 feet long, 59 feet wide, and 54 feet high. Each base section weighs around 1.5 tons, so while it may not look like much at first glance, the Pont Jacques Chaban-Delmas is pretty hefty. The bridge takes 11 minutes to fully lift or lower into place, but can remain closed to traffic for up to 90 minutes in order to let larger vessels pass through. Number 10. Langkawi Sky Bridge. Heading over to Malaysia for the next entry on our list, we have the Langkawi Sky Bridge. This 410-foot-long curved pedestrian cable-stayed bridge in Malaysia was built in 2005. The bridge deck is an incredible 2,170 feet above sea level at the peak of Gunung Mat Chingkan on Pulau Langkawi, the main island of the Langkawi archipelago in Kedah. To get to the Langkawi Sky Bridge, you first need to hop on the Langkawi cable car to the top station, where an inclined lift called the Sky Glide takes visitors from the top station down to the bridge. The bridge was closed in July 2012 for maintenance and upgrading. The curved section of the bridge is suspended by 4 pairs of front stay cables connected to outrigger hanging points located on the ends of the 3 curved 83-foot sections in a semi-fan array from the top of a 275-foot-high single pylon. The curved bridge deck hangs with its center of gravity directly below its point of suspension at the pylon head and at the top of the deck at an elevation of 2,165 feet above sea level. The pylon is anchored into a concrete pad set at an elevation of just under 2,000 feet, and its tip reached 2,250 feet above sea level. It's tilted from the vertical in 2 planes and stabilized by 2 main back K stables anchored into opposite hillsides. The 2 ends of the curved bridge deck are connected to 2 triangular viewing platforms on opposite hilltops. In total, the bridge is designed to carry up to 250 people at a time. Just remember, don't look down. Number 9. Capilano Suspension Bridge. Built in 1889 by the Scottish civil engineer George Grant Mackay, the 460-foot Capilano Suspension Bridge was quite a simple contraption: hemp rope and cedar planks. Once the bridge was in place, Mackay's property became popular amongst his friends, who took the name the Capilano Tramps to mark themselves as the adventurous types who would dare to cross the swaying bridge. The crude original version was upgraded to a wire cable bridge in 1903. Then in 1910, the property was sold and began changing hands over the years, as each subsequent owner built the bridge's reputation as a world-class adventure tourism destination. The span was completely rebuilt in 1956 and is now under the purview of a small chain of rustic tourist attractions. The bridge has come a long way since the time of these turn-of-the-century adventurers. The Capilano Suspension Bridge continues to draw crowds of visitors every year, and it's ranked as one of Vancouver's most popular destinations. On the west side of the bridge is the Treetop Adventures Canopy Walk, which consists of 8 wooden bridges suspended between a number of huge Douglas fir trees over 100 feet in the air. Bridges are secured to the trees not through nails or bolts that would damage the trees, but through specially engineered steel collars. Once removed, these collars will have done no damage to the host trees at all, being as if they were never there. But not to be outdone, in 2011 the vertigo-inducing cliff walk opened on the east side of the canyon, pinned straight into the cliff rock. The cliff walk is a series of secure and narrow walkways jutting out from the cliffs, through the trees and over the river. Providing excellent views of the suspension bridge, then the river below, as well as the trees growing out of the cliff and of the surrounding forest, the cliff walk is a unique way to appreciate and feel the thrill of the West Coast. So all of this begs the question, would Mackay and his company of merry adventurers approve of what their bridge has become? Number 8. Royal Gorge Bridge. The Royal Gorge Bridge is a famous tourist attraction near Canyon City, Colorado, within the Royal Gorge Bridge and Park, a 360-acre amusement park located along the perilous edge of the Royal Gorge around both ends of the bridge. The bridge crosses the gorge 955 feet above the Arkansas River and held the record for the highest bridge in the world from 1929 until 2001, when it was surpassed by the Lungguanghe Bridge in China. This Royal Gorge Bridge maintained the title of the world's highest suspension bridge until the Beipan River Guanxing Highway Bridge was completed in 2003, also in China. But the bridge remains the highest bridge in the United States and was among the 10 highest bridges in the world until 2012. The main span of the bridge between the two towers is incredible 880 feet, with a total length of 1,260 feet and a width of 18 feet, with the tower standing 150 feet high. The steel base structure is covered with 1,292 wooden planks. The bridge is pretty stellar, but it's also incredibly scary to cross, so you better not look down. The Royal Gorge Bridge was built in just 6 months in 1929 and cost $350,000, which may not seem like much, but it's $4.2 million equivalent in today's dollars. In 1931, the incline railway was added beside the bridge to reach the bottom of the gorge, and in the 1950s, a miniature railroad was built by the edge of the gorge, and an aerial tram was opened in 1969. But to add an extra flair of fear and danger, a sky coaster was added in 2003, with riders being swung out over the edge of the gorge. Number 7. The Living Root Bridges of Meghalaya. These next bridges on our list is as perilous as they are cool. A living root bridge is a type of simple suspension bridge formed of living plant roots by tree shaping. They are common in the southern part of the northeast Indian state of Meghalaya. They're handmade from the aerial roots of rubber fig trees by the indigenous groups of the mountainous terrain along the southern part of the Shillong Plateau. Most of the bridges grow on steep slopes of subtropical moist broadleaf forests between 160 and 3,700 feet above sea level. As long as the tree from which it's formed remains healthy, the roots in the bridge can naturally grow thick and strengthen. New roots can grow throughout the tree's life and must be pruned or manipulated to strengthen the bridge. Once mature, some bridges can have as many as 50 or more people crossing at a time and have a lifespan of several hundred years. But without proper active care, many bridges have decayed or grown wild, becoming unusable, and you won't know until you try and cross. At over 165 feet in length, the longest known example of a living root bridge is near the small town of Pinersula in India, which can be accessed from either the village of Mokirnath or Rengtingleong. Number 6. Evergreen Point Floating Bridge. If you're ever in the area and going for a nice little joyride down US State Route 520, then make sure you roll over the Evergreen Point Floating Bridge. After construction finally wrapped up in 2016, this modern marvel took the top spot for the longest floating bridge in the world. The bridge spans a whopping 7,710 feet across Lake Washington and is wide enough to accommodate 6 lanes of vehicles. But how is something that long and wide able to withstand that much weight on a daily basis? Well, the Evergreen Point Floating Bridge uses 77 concrete pylons as its foundation, so the weight of the water that's being displaced by the pontoons is equal to the weight of the structure, which is what allows it to float. The idea of a floating bridge may be scary to most people, but don't worry, because this spectacle of engineering is pretty safe. It almost makes you wish you'd pay more attention in high school math class. The roadway's elevated 20 feet above the water, and seeing as how the bridge floats on the water, it uses 58 separate anchors to keep everything in place. Number 5. Eshima Ohashi Bridge. Alright, the next entry on our list feels more like a roller coaster than it does a bridge. Located in the Chugoku region of Honshu in the western part of Japan, the Eshima-Ohashi Bridge connects Saikiminato and Yatsukacho Eshima, spanning a mile across Lake Nakaumi. It was built to allow the passage of large cargo ships towards the open sea, but the big claim to fame here is the fact that the bridge has an insanely steep and terrifying slope that's tall enough to let ships pass underneath it with ease. It's a stretch of road that's freaked out even the most confident drivers. It looks like an insane roller coaster. Cars gradually ascend, making it less scary for drivers than the bridge appears when photos are taken from a straight-on angle. It's been nicknamed the roller coaster bridge because of its super steep slope and the appearance of being a bridge to the sky. The bridge is a two-lane concrete road. It rises so sharply it gives even the bravest of drivers some fear, featuring a ridiculously steep slope that allows ships to pass underneath. The concrete road spans a mile and sends drivers straight into the sky, and then suddenly drops off. With a gradient of 5.1% on the Tottori Prefecture side and 6.1% on the Shimane Prefecture side, it's said to be the steepest bridge in the world. Number 4. Sidu River Bridge. When it comes to impressive feats of architecture and infrastructure, China has proven time and time again that it's got a handle on things. The Sidu River Bridge hangs over 1,600 nauseating feet above a canyon floor, connecting what amounts to two mountain tops. Opened in 2009, the Sidu River Bridge beat out the previous record-holding span, the Hejigio Gorge Pipeline Bridge in Papua New Guinea, which is suspended just over 1,200 feet in the ground. The Sidu Bridge was part of China's ever-expanding highway system, connecting two disparate parts of the country that were previously separated by difficult mountainous terrain and multiple rivers. The bridge stretches for just over 5,000 feet across the river valley and was so far across that the builders had to use a rocket to string the first pilot line across the gap. The hefty length is supported by two massive H-shaped towers, one at either end of the road. The suspension lines dip in the middle and rise back up again, looking more than a little flimsy for such a massive span. This is not to say that the bridge isn't safe, as the huge amounts of steel and concrete that make up the bridge should be more than adequate to hold any amount of vehicles that might want to make the trip across. Number 3. Bamboo Bridge of Kampong Cham. A bridge doesn't have to be made of sturdy stone or high-tech glass or soar above the clouds to be amazing. In fact, one of the coolest bridges in the world is also one of the simplest, the Bamboo Bridge of Kampong Cham. This bamboo bridge is seasonal. It's built every dry season when the waters of the Mekong River recede and become too shallow for the ferry. Then at the start of each rainy season, before the rivers swell, the bridge is dismantled by hand and the bamboo is stored away for reuse and other projects. They do this because during the wet season, the river currents become too strong for the bridge to survive. Boats then ferry people across the river instead. Once the waters have receded low enough and currents have subdued, construction on a new bridge commences. First, tall bamboo poles are rammed into the riverbed and a layer of split bamboo matting is laid on top to make the surface. More poles at different angles brace the foundation, and the bridge is strong and wide enough to support the weight of light vehicles. But despite how the bridge may appear from afar, it is incredibly sturdy. The secret is hiding in plain sight. Because bamboo bends rather than breaks under pressure, driving a car or motorbike across the bridge causes the bamboo to continually flex and bounce, giving riders the experience of riding a wave, accompanied by the percussive and deafening rattle of the deck under the tires. Number 2. Henderson Waves Bridge. Singapore seems to be doing everything it can to pave the way for the metropolises of the world. Almost 50% of Green City is covered in greenery, and the lush environments are supported by a focus on renewable energy and future sustainability. Part of this interconnected system is the Southern Ridges, a 6.2-mile trail in the south of the city. It's also where you'll find the Henderson Waves, the highest pedestrian bridge in Singapore. Completed in 2008, the Henderson Waves Bridge is the most impressive of all the bridges along the Ridges Trail. It connects Mount Faber Park to Telok Bangla Hill Park, stretching for 899 feet and reaching a height of 118 feet above Henderson Road. It also looks pretty cool. The bridge's most notable feature is its organic wave-like design. The walkway itself is formed by slats of yellow balau wood sourced from certified sustainable timber farms in East Malaysia, and around this flow the titular snake-like waves. The waves are formed by 7 undulating curved steel ribs that at various stages rise over or beneath the walkway. In some sections, the wave flows high over the bridge, forming alcoves that provide sheltered seating areas for passing pedestrians. The bridge was designed to integrate with green areas around it. At the same time, it was made with multifunctionality in mind. Not only does it connect 2 green spaces, but also provides a recreational experience in its own right. Number 1. Ruyi Bridge. When photos of the Ruyi Bridge began to circulate around the internet, many surfers said it was too crazy to be real. There's no way something this insane could ever exist, right? Well, wrong. The Ruyi Bridge in Zhejiang province looks more like it belongs in the movie Avatar than it does on Earth. Still, China is notorious for building some pretty cool bridges. Initially, the wonky walkway are about 460 feet above the ground, and the glass-bottom structure, which is 1,400 feet long and suspended 1,000 feet above ground level, was first opened in 2016. Since September 2020, the unbelievable bridge has been open to the public, but it didn't seem to get too much coverage outside of China until former Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield shared a mystical video of it on Twitter in November 2020. By that time, it had already attracted over 200,000 visitors. This curving piece of architecture was designed by Heyun Chang, a steel structure specialist at the China Metal Structure Association, according to the official Zhejiang province website. Heyun Chang was also involved in constructing several other notable buildings, including Beijing's Bird Nest, which was built in conjunction with the 2008 Olympic Games. The bridge's architecture is influenced by the Ruyi shape of the Chinese folklore, which represents strength and good fortune. It's an awesome bridge that joins the ranks of China's many other mind-bending bridges, including the Glass Bridge in Guangdong Province, the Grand Canyon Skywalk in Zhangjiajie, and the Tianmen Skywalk. I guess death-defying glass bridges are definitely a trend in China, allowing for easier observation and an immersive feel, but they're definitely not for the faint of heart. I'll see you next time. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge. The Top 5 show has launched channel memberships. Thank you to our channel members.